The time is 7:32. I call the June 17th meeting of Yardley Borough Council to order. Please stand for the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Manager Johnson.
Ms. Thompson?
Present.
Mr. Carlson?
Present.
Mr. Applebaum?
Here.
Mr. Feiner? Ms. Scherer?
Present.
Ms. Siegel-Mars? And Mr. Stone.
With 4 members present, we squeak by with a quorum. Mr. Stump will be joining us in a few moments. We will start at the top of our agenda with one of our favorite things we do here, a vote to hire a new part-time police officer. Sergeant Golden, please.
Thank you, Council President. I'm glad to report, during this report to Council, that we had last council meeting on June 3rd, 2025. I asked Borough Council to give a conditional offer of employment to applicant Ian Barnes pending the review of the application, background check, and the passing of all required examinations and all other MOPEC eligibility requirements. I was notified by MOPEC on June 10th, 2025, that Ian Barnes had met and passed all eligibility requirements and is now certified to take office as a Yardley Borough Police Officer. I respectfully ask Council to consider a motion for Yardley Borough to extend an offer of employment and hire Ian Barnes as a part-time police officer for Yardley Borough.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Councilperson Scherer, seconded by Councilperson Applebaum. Any discussion from council? Discussion from the public? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Officer.
There you go.
Ian, come on up. Thank you, sir. Stand here for all the pretty pictures. So good evening, everyone. As we always say, an early congratulations. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm supposed to sing or something like that. So just want to say, obviously, we take very seriously the commitment you're about to make to Yardley Borough, and we give that respect and that dedication back to you. So we're happy you're going to join the family. So if you're ready, let's get this done, okay? I don't need this, so thank you. All right, so please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and I will uphold the laws and ordinances of the Borough of Yardley, and I will discharge the duties of a non-civil service police officer of the Borough of Yardley with fidelity and to the best of my judgment and ability. Welcome to Yardley Borough Police Department. So, your first official input, I'm not going to do it all the way, but we'll just get it real pretty for the pictures, okay? There you go. Well, you want to come up for a good picture? Sleeves roll up there also. I know, there's more to the story. I'm going to break it for just a second. Perfect. All right, congratulations.
You can solicit it. Oops, just don't stab me.
The base is coming. Just watch the light.
Break the finger like I did last time.
Stay here.
It's so close to see if we can have that.
Sure.
Paul.
Yes, I know it.
Our next order of business is community announcements. Does any member of council or the mayor have announcements about upcoming events happening in or around Yardley?
Yes, Madam President. Juneteenth, 6:30 in front of Borough Hall, sponsored by The Gathered Place. Executive Director Shirley Coursey has a number of things prepared to educate and to celebrate the national holiday of Juneteenth this week. So thank you.
On Thursday.
On Thursday, thank you.
Excellent. Any other community announcements from up at the table first? Do any members of the public have any upcoming events in or around Yardley that they'd like to share with us? Ms. Howlett, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Martha Howlett, 24 Penn Valley Drive. On Saturday at 2 p.m. at Yardley Friends Meeting, there is a local children's book authors fair. So if you have kids or just get invited to a lot of baby showers like me, please join us. It should be a good time, 2 to 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other community announcements? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. This is the portion of the meeting where members of the public can address council on matters not on the agenda. We ask that you come forward, state your name and address, and keep your remarks to 3 minutes per matter. Public comment this evening?
Ravi Rajan, 20 North Main Street. I just want to thank the council we're working on the easement with the council for our pool house. I don't know what the best time, how do we go about just reviewing that and making sure both parties are?
So you can set up a time with our solicitor who's handling the legal aspects of the easement. Manager Johnson can coordinate that for you.
All right, thank you. Again,
You're welcome.
thanks.
I know he's almost done with it, so we'll get it to you as soon as possible as well.
Any other public comment this evening? Hearing none, we will move on to a presentation from some guests we have from OpenGov. If you've been tuning in, we spoke about OpenGov a few meetings ago, and I won't bury the lead here. I'll let you take it from here. Welcome, Jack.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I just sent a request to be able to share my screen.
Excellent.
You're going to move because they're going to be a screen behind you, so you're not going to be able to see anything.
Oh, thank you.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you all for hosting us, one in person and one virtually. My name is Jack Ragnoni. I serve as OpenGov's account executive, working across all of our Pennsylvania communities, but also across the Northeast, specifically with the permitting and licensing solution that we offer. But really wanted to thank you all for the time today. We've had some fantastic conversations to date with Town Manager Johnson, President Thompson, learning about. We've been tuning into a few council meetings, hearing what's going on within the borough, and I'm from Boston. I live there today. Don't hold it against me, but I did go to Villanova, so being back here is great. Councilor Applebaum, I know you're an adjunct at Drexel, so love the Big Five.
He's doing his homework.
Oh yeah, but truly, just thank you all for the time. What we're going to do today is just kind of give an overview of who we are as a company. End of the day, our mission at OpenGov is to power more effective and accountable government, and we do that just by helping you provide exceptional customer service to your constituents. Really quickly, Megan, if you wouldn't mind flipping through to the overall, just the OpenGov cloud, just so we can, maybe we'll start there. What we'll cover today is, to give you a little background of who we are as a company. So we're a cloud ERP enterprise resource planning solution. So while permitting licensing is something we do extremely well, we have about 20 communities in Pennsylvania we serve, 600 across the country. Everything from your budgeting and planning, procurement, financial management, and then even work order tracking, asset management are all areas we can do. End of the day, from what we've learned from the community, and Mag, if you wouldn't mind clicking 2 forward, is really to help the borough kind of accomplish on 4 main things. I think the first is just strengthen compliance. We've learned a lot about what's happening currently about, even though a square mile community, over half of the locations, it sounds, are within floodplain zones, historic districts, and that requires oversight. And having strong systems to help manage that goes a long way. We've learned about, some of the items that are going on at 77 Morgan and just like the challenges that have come with it. The second thing that, we'd be able to bring to the borough and help, the team accomplish is just ensuring confident revenue collection, making it easier to pay what fees are due. Applicants and contractors, whoever it might be, they can pay from their home on a Saturday. They can see what's outstanding. The borough can also just efficiently track your own revenues and really understand where you're at, what's outstanding. Third, a little more on the, obviously, but helping you streamline the internal operations. From what we've understood, it's sometimes a permit will, be issued from one department, and 2 weeks later, maybe not sure exactly where that stands. Where is it in the approvals process? Even hearing challenges such as maybe being told from the zoning department that, hey, you are in a floodplain zone, you cannot begin construction, and the contractor going around and getting, authorization from a building department that doesn't know what is going on. So helping the oversight, helping the collaboration, we're going to get rid of the silos and help put everybody together, on one team. And then lastly is just, if all those go really well, we're a public, sector, company, and our goal is to help you improve your resident trust, the experience. We do that by, automatic notifications when your permit progresses, consistent communication, putting all this online and allowing clear transparency throughout the process can certainly help us serve as, a missing piece, as President Thompson, framed it a few weeks ago at a council workshop. But and everything from, your right to know requests and some of the costs associated with that does sound like that's a costly area, almost $30,000 annually. So a lot that we've learned to date. I'll pause here for a quick second. What we'll do is, take you through an overview of actually what the system looks like, how your residents would be engaging with it, and then internally, how staff would be managing it. But I do want to pause for a second. Any questions on just from a company standpoint, who we are at OpenGov, what we've learned? Please help, correct myself or Madigan if we have, gotten anything wrong on that slide, but it'd be great to hear if there are any questions.
I'd like to pause a second. I want to fix this display. Hang on one second.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's too early to ask this, though. You said that the right to know you can cut legal costs. How does that happen with a computer system?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we can do, and we'll show you this, is you can actually have a public search functionality on your customer portal. Now, that comes with a whole host of other items. How much do we want to be, extending to the public? It can be, maybe too much information. Some communities have offered that to us, but what we'll allow you to do is you control what's publicly available. If it's as simple as my neighbor's been hammering away on a deck, and I know maybe I'm just nosy and I want to know if they have an active permit for it, you could see that. Same with rentals. If you have, that would allow residents to be able to search the property or the parcel, and they could see what's active on it. So quick phone calls, someone just being curious, all those go away, which could.
We'll talk about also internally how staff saves time, right? So being able to have all that information and data in one spot. So easy on the customer, easy on the borough.
What you're saying is you only enter it once, and then the resident can find that out rather than having to reduplicate that every time somebody asks the same question.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, if I'm sure there are a lot of questions around, contracting and maybe more the details, but I think what would be great is to show everyone, I don't know, I kind of call it the fun stuff, actually showing you what the software does. Megan, with that, I'll let you show, we're going to show you a few, partners of ours within the state as examples, but also take you through, a general overview. So please, and stop us at any point. It's meant to be collaborative.
Yeah, awesome. Everyone, my name is Madigan Ellis. I'm a solutions specialist at OpenGov. I'm based out of our Chicago office, so I'm tuning in virtually, but just wanted to say thank you for letting us come and present. We don't always get the opportunity to do so, but I always really appreciate it and appreciate engagement that we get as well. I'm actually going to start here in my demonstration environment, kind of pretend I'm an applicant, walk through what it would be like to maybe apply for a building permit. I want to just kind of show you at a high level what that experience is going to be like for residents or contractors. We'll also take a look at how we can start to find information ourselves as a resident instead of maybe submitting an official RTK, although we do also have a process that someone can come and do that here through the public portal. But just to kind of take a step back here, hope you can all see my screen clearly. I am in my demonstration environment, which is a browser, So OpenGov Permitting and Licensing offers a 24/7 resident-facing, contractor, developer-facing portal that's meant to be a one-stop shop for folks to do business with the borough. Now, I just quickly rebranded this for the borough today, and you can see in the top right-hand corner, I'm logged in as my applicant, Alana. So although I am applying through my laptop here in Chicago, I could certainly be on my iPhone, maybe an Android, my iPad, right? This is mobile responsive, so anywhere there's internet, I can go ahead and quickly pull up something and, pull up an application or a form I need to do. Maybe I need to go look at the history of previous projects I've had with the borough. I can access that all through here. Now, when you get your public portal, it'll be configured to you, right? So the banner, you could name it whatever you want, and then you'll see we have these various tiles down here. Typically, our customers are dividing these up by department or division. If we have time at the end, we'll look at Bath, Lower Makefield Township. We'll take a look at some other examples in the state who use us and how they've set up their public portals. But at a high level, we are just really big on making it intuitive and as easy as possible for folks to find what they're looking for, submit that application, have no questions about the application, and then make sure that it's going through all of the correct hoops on the borough's end without any redundancies, without any errors, and ultimately without having to go back so many times to the applicant and say, hey, I forgot this, or hey, did you get this, right? We want to streamline it and just really make it easy as possible. Now, each of these tiles I can now enter into, and I can see some information about that department or that division, right? So what is the building department responsible for? For what types of work do I need a building permit? Or maybe more importantly, what types of work don't I need a permit for, right? So all of this help text here, this is highly configurable. So what I mean when I say configurable is Yardley gets the keys to the castle. If they purchase OpenGov, you don't need to come back to OpenGov and say, hey, can you change this photo? Can you change this text? Can you change this fee? All of what you're going to see today is built in a no-code environment, meaning there's no scripting, there's no coding needed. It's meant to be used, again, in a user-friendly manner so that you don't need technical expertise. You really own the system here. So you can see I've grabbed some help text from your website here, and then down here are all of the available application types that I can now choose from. So whether that's building, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and so on. Now, hopping back here to the home screen, let's say, I'm not logged in, I haven't done business with the borough before, maybe I'm new to the area, I'm interested in purchasing a home, and I want to see, hey, what permits have been pulled on this property that I'm thinking of buying because, I see what the listing says, I see what the realtor told me, but I want to just, maybe verify. Or maybe like Jack had mentioned, there's a loud, nosy neighbor. Okay, it looks like they're operating some sort of Airbnb short-term rental. Do they have a, license to do that? This is one example. Up here in the top right-hand corner is a search button. This is going to provide the ability for the public to search on either an address or a record number. Now, record number is just simply a string of an ID, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 would be a building permit. Now, this functionality can be toggled on or off, and I do want to caveat that it's highly configurable. So within a lot of applications, there's things that we don't necessarily need the public to have access to, right? Especially when we think about code enforcement cases, right? Maybe there's some sensitive information. Not everybody needs to have access to that. The borough will have complete control over what is shown here on the public search. But as I start to type in 980 Memorial Drive here, you'll notice that this list of addresses is autofilling. And when I click on this one that I would like to focus on, I'm now seeing the location or the property page here. Now, I can see at a glance who that property owner is, Marty McFly, and I can see all of the records that have either been stopped, that are active, or maybe that have been in a completed phase. So this is an address that I use quite often for my demonstrations, so I have quite a few records available here. But if I were to click on this one here, the standard building permit, I can see some detailed information such as that type of work, you know, how much square footage are they going to be adding, what's that project valuation, hey, who's the contractor working on it? So again, just want to emphasize this type of information can be narrowed down, right? So maybe we don't want to show that information, but we do want to make sure that that site plan is available for the public to go ahead and see. Now this is where we can start thinking about that time savings on those RTKs. So right away, I, as a nosy neighbor, can go ahead and pull up this site plan. I don't need to call the borough. I don't need to, you know, waste someone's time on the back end who has just fulfilled this request over and over and over again. Now, in addition, documents can be found over here. So documents would be the actual building permit itself or the actual certificate of occupancy. Now, this one hasn't been issued yet. It's still in an active status. It was just created today.
And this is almost a functionality too that, you know, code enforcement or, you know, individual, like your inspectors who might be out in the field, they have the ability to do this on the internal side too, that if you do see, you know, work happening and you're unsure if it has been permitted, you can look up the address right there, you know, and see where everything does stand. So just how you can leverage on the public side, you have the same, you have greater functionality, you know, on the back.
Now, I'm gonna go ahead and just hop into a building permit here. Pretend I'm applying maybe for an addition on my home, maybe an alteration. When I open or start this building permit, I can see some additional help text, right? So that's specific to this application, not necessarily the department entirety. A lot of our customers use this, you know, they can even link out to a video. You can link out to PDFs here, fee schedules. Again, just wanting to give them a lot of information up front. Now, when I click apply online, the first step, no matter what type of application I'm coming in to apply for, is going to be confirming my contact information. Now, because I was already logged in as Alana, all of her information auto-populated here. So I don't need to do a redundant step of creating another profile, and then all of a sudden I have duplicate profiles, and everything is going to be tied to one account, which is tied to my email address, which ensures that I receive regular communication from the borough regarding the status of my application. So I'm just going to go ahead and confirm that this is indeed still my contact information, and I'm going to move forward in my application.
So any contractor who like has, you know, done business with Lower Makefield, who's, you know, an OpenGov customer, and how, you know, our conversation started, this would auto-populate. They would already have their login. They'd have some, you know, familiarity too with the system as well. So, which is a big advantage.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
If I put in an address and it turned out I was not a Yardley Borough resident, but I was confused, would it tell me you don't live in Yardley Borough?
It's a good question. Madigan, how would we, I mean, my initial thought is we'd have to build that into the workflow to be like a check.
Yeah, is the question about if an address populates and it's not in Yardley?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we do during implementation is we actually integrate with the borough's master source of address data, which I believe is the assessor. But essentially, no one would be able to even see an option for a neighboring town. It's only going to give me the options here for
To clarify that question a little bit, so
our neighboring township, Lower Makefield, all of those properties do have a Yardley mailing address. So will it still not populate?
Yeah,
Yeah, whatever is in that, what we call a master address.
Oh, okay. Got it.
is
Okay.
going to be populated.
Yeah.
So you
Got it.
can determine, hey, here are the addresses that we need, whether those are, within, I talk to communities who have a lot of, outside of city limits. We still want those within the system. So, yeah, you'll be able to tell us what needs to be here as far as addresses and parcels.
especially with this project too, just knowing your location and how in the situation, like we'd want to take a look at it beforehand too, before committing to anything. We want to make sure we could do it.
Quick question, what's the data set that's used for all this information?
It pulls from the assessor's database.
So it's pulled from what they already have here or county?
However, the borough, has their addressing, that's what we would tie into. And we also would tie into any sort of GIS systems. And in implementation, we've been talking about, we set up kind of like the master address table to make sure it's all like compliant and all set.
Is that a real-time API, or what is it that you use to pull from? Sorry, it's the adjunct.
No.
It's okay. Yeah, it's not a real-time API. It is via a secure FTP site. So on a nightly basis, OpenGov looks for updates from that file.
I see.
Update any records that need to be updated.
And I'm assuming the borough gets to pick what data can be pulled from someone who's searching for an address. Gotcha.
Now, just to kind of demonstrate the functionality here, I'm choosing a location for this project, for this building permit, and I chose 980 Memorial Drive. I can even choose a unit if I'd like, so, if it's a plaza, maybe it's a townhome, for example, then I can see that property owner information and all of that parcel level data here. I'm not going to go through the application step by step here, but the key takeaway is just knowing that, we don't necessarily have a template that you need to fit into. Part of implementation is you give us your building permits, we build them for you. We add in what we call conditional logic, so that depending on how that applicant is answering a certain question or providing a drop down here, there's going to be additional fields that populate. So if I say, hey, this type of work is addition, notice that the existing and the proposed building area populated for me. So again, we're not inundating the applicant with things that aren't really relevant to their project. We want to make it as simple as possible. Again, I checked single use, so now I have to enter in that number of bath, maybe stories, number of bedrooms, and so on.
Just so everyone knows too, like the form's gonna dynamically change based on the response. So just think of it like TurboTax rather than, the one PDF where you scan with your pen and figure it out. This is just gonna allow you, yes, no, single family, if so, then, answer these questions. So the whole goal is to don't answer what you don't need to answer, reduce the risk of errors and make it as easy as we can to funnel along with all information.
Now, some of these number fields are actually determining what the fee is going to be charged to that contractor. So we build in your fee schedule, so whether that's based on existing square footage or project valuation, the system behind the scenes is doing the math for me. After this, I can digitally sign this. I can go ahead and add my contractor, maybe other project managers, landscapers, engineers, everyone involved. I can add them as contacts here. And ultimately, when I submit this application, it's going to take me to a post-submission page. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hop over to one of those, one of those applications here. Now, once I have uploaded my site plans, again, added those project contacts, I'm going to be here at my post-submission page. Key thing to know here on the left-hand side is this configurable set of workflow steps. Now this is what I like to call our Domino's Pizza tracker. So this is letting that contractor know in real time where their application stands on the borough's end. So what I did before I hopped on today is I went ahead and processed that application fee My receipt was immediately available for me to print, right? So using the fee schedule, it knew what to charge that contractor. And then it moved forward in the step, in our Domino's Pizza tracker, to now be in the intake or the floodplain review. So this set of steps, again, configurable to the borough. It's going to look different based on each application that comes in. At each step of the workflow, I have the ability to communicate with the borough. So maybe I want to ask a question about my application. Maybe something changed, you know? I don't have to pick up the phone. I don't have to email. I don't have to walk in. I can simply do it all here from my phone, my tablet, my laptop.
Quick question? Okay. If I understand this, but I may not, the resident has an account.
Correct.
They could add contractors to be able to access their particular permit?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the guest functionality, what that allows you to do is, you know, anyone who you add as a guest to your application can submit additional documents on your behalf. If there's a fee to be paid and it's a project run by multiple individuals, you know, the one of them who's free could pay at that time. We find it, and yeah, Madigan just added me, and what that's actually gonna start pinging me for the rest of this meeting is I'm gonna keep getting emails on my phone. What we find the value of that is the fewer, or I'm sorry, like the more individuals that can access it, and we can just cut down on the bottleneck where if it's a contractor and they're out at their job site all day and they're not able to pay that fee until they come back, but their colleague can pay it at 10 a.m. that day, that gets it back to the borough. And just like that, you're already, you know, a few hours ahead of schedule, and we find that compounds. So yes, you are understanding it correctly.
And the merchant services that are related to the, these permits, is that of our choosing, or do we go through your company?
The what?
The merchant services.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
We have a native integration with a payment processor by the name of Stripe. However, we do have 4 other payment processors that we have built an integration to that are available.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The person that's hiring all these people to do whatever they want to do, is it a problem? I don't know.
Yeah.
I was asking you, if you have, there are some like small contractors that are not tech people, and they wouldn't probably get on there and ever add anything to it, because maybe they do it the old-fashioned way, paper and pencil, and
Yeah, I mean, by no means do we think this is, it's not a silver bullet, right? It's, it takes time, it takes adoption. You're already almost with a head step, just knowing your, like, proximity to Lower Makefield and the fact that they've used it. So you probably actually have a larger customer base that's used OpenGov than you might think. For anyone who's a little bit older, or your residents who might need some help, we really recommend, like, upon, you know, kickoff date, probably setting up like a kiosk or something like that at the front, and walking them through it for the first time. It is pretty intuitive once you do it a few times.
I have people that I have used that don't do anything electronic at all. They don't use the computers, they're very old school.
Yeah.
They're not old people. They're just,
Yeah.
they are.
No, yeah, and I totally
You know,
understand.
is that gonna, would that affect this application?
So if someone comes in with plan sets and they come in with their applications, you can absolutely, you know, process payments at the counter. You can keep doing things and just, you know, hand key it into the system. We always say, I mean, on average, we've run the numbers with all of our communities. On average, we find about an 80% decrease in walk-in traffic. So if you're getting, you know, 50 people through the door, like that's a significant decrease on that. And then if, you know, even if it's a small percentage of people who still are coming in, the vast majority of the applicants who are leveraging it, you know, the value is there. And who knows, maybe they start to see everyone else using it and then they feel inspired. But I'm an optimist.
People that
No?
No. Yeah, I know people that would never.
So, you know, it wouldn't be the first time we've had, you know, individuals move slower, but.
I mean, it doesn't really affect it, I guess you just put down that, you know,
Yeah,
using them.
wouldn't hinder
more
process.
information to process.
your initial intake would be slower because it would still be the manual, but once that info is into system, you're moving faster internally still, so.
But if you have people that never put the information in there, then is that gonna like throw a monkey wrench into your whole system?
I'm sorry?
We'll go ahead and hop in here and just kind of, we can visualize from that staff side of what it would look like if someone brought in a piece of paper. You can always have those paper applications still available, of course. And like Jack said, it's going to be that manual effort, but this should significantly decrease with bringing it on digitally. Now, what I've done is I have hopped over to the employee side. So I've taken off my contractor hat. I've put on my building official or my permit tech hat here. And when you log in, you're going to be here on the Explore page. Now think of this as the database of the system. So every record that has been submitted through the public portal or any building permit that I went ahead as a permit tech and keyed in myself, I'm going to be able to find here. So I can narrow this down just to look at all of the building records that have been submitted, and that one that we just submitted is at the top here. Now before I hop into that, just wanting to show you how easy it is to internally create a record. I'm going to use that button up here in the top right hand corner. I can type in the building permit application, and now I can go ahead and hand key all of that information here as a staff member. So I can add the location, add in all of the details, attachments, and so on. Now, that building permit that we just submitted together is going to look like this. So this is what we just call a record detail page. And over here on the left-hand side, you'll notice that I have that Domino's pizza tracker. So the same set of workflow steps the contractor saw when he or she logged in to their account. That application fee was paid, so then it moved on to that intake or that floodplain review. So right away, we can see that this has been routed to the appropriate individual. You know, maybe that is FEMA, maybe it's someone internally. In this case, it's Vita, and it has a due date assigned to it. So Vita would have got a notification, maybe via email, maybe via her browser notification, or even in her inbox that, hey, she has a new application to review, she needs to get eyes on it. That's when Vita can come in here, view all of the attachments in one spot that were uploaded by that applicant, so that site plan, any landscaping plans, grading, what have you, and she can actually see the location. Now you'll see these color-coded flags here. These are what we call location flags. These are pulling in from the borough's GIS. Now that is the system that says, you know, where the parcels are, what's a historic district, what's a flood zone for folks in the room that may not know. So the system automatically knows that 980 Memorial Drive is in a flood zone, and it used that data point to say, hey, wait a minute, we need to have this stopgap in here so that no departments are even involved in this process until we can make sure that something can be built here. So again, Vita can see that comment left by the applicant. In this case, she said, love the new system. Vita can actually comment back to her, just like this, in a text message sort of fashion here, saying, you know, thank you, or thanks, so do we. Or, you know, maybe Vita needs to make a comment internally to someone who doesn't necessarily work in the same office as her, right? We got Public Works, or maybe we have Fire that's definitely housed in maybe a different building. I can always communicate internally as well as externally, right? So our goal is to get you away from the Post-its. I gotta admit, I'm a Post-it girl myself, but away from email communication and walk-ins and phone calls. And we really want to consolidate all the communication that's happening here so that by the time Vita signs off on this workflow step and it now moves to these departments who can all concurrently review it, they can see the history of, oh, okay, it looks like Vita communicated last week. You know, it looks like she left a note here saying that they stopped into the borough hall and they have everything they need right at their fingertips here.
As this progresses to just one thing that is helpful is in terms of compliance is like so on the far right is the activity feed. So as any changes are made to it, as applications are resubmitted, as communication has gone back and forth. That's all at your fingertips. So if someone does inquire about it, or even if it's just helpful to have a living record where, hey, I submitted my permit 3 weeks ago, where is it? And you can professionally just point them to this and say, hey, we've actually only had it for a few days. We'll review it ASAP.
Technical question. Talking about, I may be getting ahead. I thought I saw where there would be uploads of plans. So I'm assuming the basics like JPEGs, PDFs, possibly spreadsheet, whatever. What about CAD?
CAD drawings?
Like if it's a true architect that's actually working within that realm, or do they need to convert it to PDF? Or
Megan, how do we handle CAD? I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, they can upload that file here in the attachments.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we open it here, though?
Well, that's a great question, too.
Software to open it.
Yeah.
Wes, don't we have a CAD pro? No, never mind. I'm just kidding.
Alrighty, so here in the workflow, all of these departments can concurrently do their review. So it doesn't matter what order I sign off on. Maybe fire gets their review done tomorrow. Jenny can go ahead and sign off. William, this has been automatically routed to him, and Jenny for building. It's not until all three of those folks sign off here that then the building permit will be issued. Now that building permit will be issued with borough's letterhead, your logo, any required text fields, and most importantly, it's going to automatically generate, and it's going to be available for that contractor to actually go ahead and print themselves. So they don't need to come in and do it. You don't need to mail it. They're going to use their printer ink and go ahead and print that out here, and maybe tape it or post it on site. Alrighty. Now, I know inspections are critical for you, so I'm just going to go ahead and quickly touch on inspections, and then I'll open it up for questions. So, again, we want to really put the ball in the applicant's court as much as possible, and make sure that the borough is working through their applications, working on things that are critical and things that, less so on the administrative, redundancies that the borough sometimes faces today with the current workflow. Now, if I hop back here to this record page, you can see, again, I'm taking my employee hat off, putting on my contractor hard hat on, and I can see that our Domino's Pizza Tracker has been updating in real time based on me signing off on those workflow steps here. And that building permit has been issued, and now it's time for me to request certain days for inspections. So what OpenGov offers is the ability for applicants to request up to 5 days that works for them. So maybe I'm ready for my foundation and my framing inspection. I can go ahead and say, next Tuesday and Wednesday work great for me. Maybe only morning, maybe I'm taking the afternoons off. And then I can actually say, hey, I, the main contractor, the main applicant, am going to be the one on site. Or, Jack is actually there in Pennsylvania. I'm hanging out in Chicago, so I'm actually going to send Jack to be on site. I can leave a note for the inspector, so maybe they need to know about a gate code or just something quirky about the property. I can communicate that here. So I've requested the inspection. I haven't scheduled it. So now it's on the borough to go ahead and sort of triage all these incoming inspections and say, hey, which ones are we going to schedule? Which ones should we prioritize for this week? Now the borough can manage all of those incoming inspections in one area, or incoming requests here. So that one that we just submitted, now this has been automatically assigned to Thomas. And now I can, if I'm Thomas, I can go ahead and schedule this out for myself. So I can go ahead and say, whoops, here's the one that I need. I can go ahead and see at this drop down that those are the two that the contractor prefers. Maybe I want to, Tuesday and Wednesday don't work. I want to go on Thursday, for example. I can select from that calendar. I can even say, hey, I'm going to be there at a specific time, or I just know I'm going to be there sometime in the day. Once I confirm and schedule that, our guest and our initial applicant receive an email notification. Hey, you know, the inspector is going to be out there, and then he or she can go ahead and check out their schedule when they log in the morning and see, okay, what inspections do we have scheduled. In this case, it's even letting me know of a schedule conflict that I have. I can see that on a map view, so it can actually tell me, hey, we think you should drive this route if you have the flexibility so that you're not driving in circles all day.
You'd be turning a lot.
Yeah, right?
Sorry for this question. So the schedule, is it also synchronizing with their Outlook as well?
It is, yep.
Okay. Oh, and just to respond to you, I forgot, they're free CAD readers, so you don't really have to worry about it. But going on. Thank you.
And also, just like one large point that's very helpful. That's very helpful to know about OpenGov is like we're an unlimited user, unlimited data model. We don't price by seat license. So knowing the relationship like Barry I said has, and other like inspectors, if Laura Makefield does have some sort of partnership and use case within this, you don't need to be worried about who gets access to OpenGov, who has a login. That is an additional cost. That's I know Councilman Feiner mentioned the hidden costs sometimes of software partnerships. So that certainly wouldn't be something you run into. With that, I mean, from an inspection standpoint, it's point and shoot, on tablets in the field or from your phone. Megan, thank you for taking us through that. That was awesome. But we also know you have a full agenda, so we want to be courteous of your time. Any questions that are top of mind that want to be addressed right now?
What's the smallest number of properties of a client that you've had?
Yeah, so that number I'm actually not sure. Are you speaking of like general partnership size? Because I know when I think from the May 20th meeting, it was maybe mentioned that OpenGov contracts based on number of properties that a municipality oversees. We structure contracts just by annual budget. So the number of properties has no impact on what
Annual budget of what? What do you mean, annual budget?
overall annual operating budget. So whatever, so I believe Yardley's about a $7 million, no, less? One?
It all depends in different years, it's different. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So the way, that's just how we've approached it. It allows us to have partnerships with, CDA Cambridge and Massachusetts or Los Angeles, but also still work with, Borough Bath, just to scale the cost of the solution. The smallest number of properties, I'm not sure. We do have, smaller communities who have used OpenGov. I could get you, a more detailed list if that'd be helpful.
Follow-up question to your question, unless you
No,
have
go ahead.
one. So on that note, if you're pricing based on the budget, is it going to be like a set percentage that changes every year, or can we negotiate a rate? And obviously, inflation is a thing. We don't expect to pay the same for 30 years.
Yeah.
Does it just automatically change if the budget changes?
No. So if, for instance, a lot of our municipalities in the New England area, but in Pennsylvania, are aligning their contracts currently to July 1, right? Their fiscal year start, maybe January 1st. And they're often 3 to 5 year partnerships. So those costs, that is what is signed, and that's what we commit to as well. The only thing to be totally transparent is, software as a service company, we pay hosting fees to AWS and Microsoft Azure, which does security for us, as well as an organization, we invest about 50% of our annual revenue back into the product. It's what's allowed us to, really provide some great services. But with that, we see, software as a service companies year-over-year contract anywhere up from a 3 to 12% uplift on your yearly cost. OpenGov is about 5%. So if it was $10,000 in year one, it'd be $12,500. It does uplift from there. But we certainly can structure 5-year, 7-year contracts have even occurred too, if that's a concern down the road. But yeah.
Okay. So At the meeting in May, Caroline, when we tossed around those numbers of 20 to 30, what were we basing that off of for the annual fee?
We were like the lowest tier possible.
Yeah, and so we were quoting correctly. It was
Okay.
from we have our smaller communities. I mentioned Bath, Hempfield Township's also smaller, but I know a little bit larger. But like 0 to 20 is where it starts. So $0 to $20 million annual operating budgets.
Okay.
So yeah, it's exactly.
Paul and I have said that's a massive range.
You're at the lower end. Yeah, if you're at zero.
Yeah.
Zero.
I mean, if our operating budget is what, let's be generous and call it 1.1. So it's,
No,
is that our,
no, we're getting close to 1.5. So.
are we 1.5? Okay.
We're 1.4 something, right? This year? Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly something, we can discuss further and understanding, the borough is on the smaller side.
But if we were to move forward, it would be a transparent pricing that we would be voting on as a council. It wouldn't be like shrouded in percentages that a taxpayer wouldn't be able to understand.
Yeah, no, it'd be very straightforward.
But you're contracting by module, I assume.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we want to since we offer since we don't price by seat license, and we also, aren't going to price by data or number of permits that you work through, right? We don't want to, suddenly we have a surge of development. Now your contract cost is far more. So we price by service area. And the only reason why I say service area is, as you can kind of see from what Megan put on the screen, it's not modular in the sense that if you just only do your building permitting, the planning department doesn't see what's going on over there. So this reason, though, we have service areas is, as an organization, we need to scale the cost somehow so that, City of Cambridge, who wants to do every single thing from their licensing to their rentals to public works permits, right to know, all of that, can take all of that on. But a really small community, in Bucks County can also, find a way to, afford and also just meet the immediate demand. Maybe it's just building permitting. So common service areas, building permitting, planning and zoning, fire, public works, your key licensing processes, whether that's your restaurants, health. Those are the main service areas.
Okay, we're right to know.
That's a freebie. The right to know related to what we're doing in the system is a freebie.
Oh,
Yeah, we could. Yeah, I mean, I think certainly we often see right to know requests, and in other states like Freedom of Information Act often fall with the clerk's department, and they often handle a lot of the licensing. So right to know usually does kind of fall within the selectman's office or the mayor's office. It would certainly be something we could package into the overall partnership.
But you can't really do the right to know if you're just doing the permitting module.
Yeah.
Okay? And you get a right to know in about licensing, restaurants and licensing and that code enforcement stuff. Unless we have those modules, you're not going to be able to pull the data out of here.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, if you're not taking in the licenses and someone asks about the licenses, you can't pull them out of OpenGov. No, fair point. Yes.
I like that he thinks we have all these different departments over various buildings.
I've been on the website. I know it's small and scaled down, but even though
I mean, you're kind of looking at just about all of us. I mean, our public works department is Ken Smith, Ken's Lawn and Landscaping Services. That's our public works department, and then 3 individuals from up here. So, and I don't mean that as a slam or a negative, but I mean that is how small we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we really we love the idea of helping communities do more with less. You have the resources you have, and you can have the most fantastic staff. But if systems are challenging, you run into bottlenecks. But no, understood. That's helpful.
Could you give me a list of a few municipalities across PA that you guys work with? Would that be a few off the top of your head, or can you email?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Borough, Bath, Eddystone,
Eddystone.
Springfield Township, Lower Mayfield, obviously, Cranberry Township as well, and then the whole, Collier County's at, a little above Philadelphia, Easton, and all those, Scranton.
Okay.
Quite a few. There should be, I'm not sure if it's in the packet, but I can absolutely
There's none in PA in the packet. I looked through. The ones that stood out to me were Minneapolis, Burnsville, Minnesota, which is about 90,000 people. I've been there. Breckenridge, Colorado, which is small, but I've also been there multiple times. They have tons of money. A bunch of towns in Massachusetts. They have high taxes, tons of money. Pueblo County, Colorado, that's an entire county. I'm glad that you said Eddystone, because that was the first one that I heard that, okay, that seems like it's on the same. Because I like it. I love everything you presented. I'm just...
No, it's a practical point.
We've been very transparent with OpenGov about our budget and specifically about the issues around opening up the budget mid-year and, finding the money for next year, and that, we like the system, we think it's needed in Yardley, but the financial piece is really difficult for us.
No, and it's very understood, and Councilman Stump too. Like that packet is,
Sure.
In retrospect, it's a little more of like just our general information, like what we do as a company. But there's a lot of smaller communities too in New York. Town of Ithaca, Granby, like very.
Oh yeah, I think it was in here
much
too. Yep.
Smaller that they operate on a much leaner budget, and they've still gotten some great success out of it. So,
Did you say Granby, Colorado?
Granby, New York.
Granby, New York. Okay.
Like upstate region, but can definitely offer you a more tailored list of references, people who'd be happy to share how they
You
use it.
said Springfield, you mean 19064 Springfield down in Delco?
Yeah, I believe so.
By the airport.
Yeah, you're gonna have to forgive
Just
me.
want to make sure that we're talking about the same spring, because there's one in.
There's one in Montgomery.
Yeah, Springfield.
So I'm
Anyway,
sure
we can
that
go offline with
Jack
that.
and Madigan would be happy to send a full list of all 600 clients of theirs if we would like them. Any other questions for this evening? Just to give you an idea of our process, obviously we have some decision makers who are not here this evening, so we'll get their thoughts. They can watch the tape after the fact. We'll send any follow-up questions we have, and then we're just going to have to figure out, what we want to do as a council and what makes sense financially for us. But I think getting more transparency around the firm numbers is definitely going to be a piece of information we need sooner rather than later. So we can send you anything regarding our budget that you would need. But I would love to see how you calculate it, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have one other question. What's a typical timeline from kickoff to up and running, like that configuration thing, and you turning all our information into the system? What's the timeline typically?
On average, about 6 months. So one thing we actually didn't really touch on too much is just what our professional services organization looks like. So implementation is done by OpenGov staff. We don't outsource or anything, so we don't, kind of break the chain of command in any way. So we're very aligned with how we're going to start the project. I joined the welcome call with your project success manager from our implementation team, as does Madigan, everyone who's kind of been a part of this. So the transfer of knowledge is right there. It's about a weekly meeting. And from that, we generally see someone serves as an executive sponsor, from the borough side. Someone's more the project manager, organizing, and then, a few subject matter experts who come in and out of the conversations as they develop. We've stood up communities as fast in a month. We did one community during COVID in over a weekend because it was quite, hey, we have nothing. We're in a serious situation. Like we have a full team to resource to it. It really kind of comes down to what the borough thinks in terms of timeline.
I may have missed this, but you said you charge by the module rather than per seat. Is there an onboarding cost?
Yes. So so the cost for OpenGov, you have your annual software subscription, right? And I think, and that's year over year, and then you have the one-time professional services cost, and that's integrating into all the systems that we talked about tonight. With assessors, we set up workflows. We will build a lot of your forms, as well as train staff. We spend a lot of time with training so that, as Madigan touched on, we really are, you own the system. Once it's stood up and live, you have a customer success manager, someone who actually you have their phone, email, name, and they do quarterly business reviews with your community. But our strongest communities really are able to fully own their system and move from there. So yes, there's a one-time professional services cost to stand everything up.
And that was the piece that we talked about last time. So if we decide to move forward and use LMT to do zoning for us, they use OpenGov, and, you know, OpenGov doesn't necessarily recommend this, but because we're the same zip code and we would be using the same staff, like could potentially be some savings because LMT has already been trained. So that's something that we would explore as well.
Yeah, and you hit on a very important point that we haven't talked about, is just managing the services with LMT. Like, our suggestion would be very much to have the borough's own instance. You saw the record page and what that looks like. That would then have yours and Lower Makefield's together, and you'd have to have, you know, consistent filters on who does what. Also, there would be logging in and out. So it would be quite challenging, and then you'd have to set up a way for Lower Makefield to how you want to manage the revenues that are coming in, that are the boroughs versus, you know, Lower Makefield Township.
Is there any other example that you have of doing that? Would this be a test case?
We have done it, and that's kind of why we're recommending the alternative of owning your own system. It's had mixed results. You need to be, having worked with Dave and the team over there, and seeing how they work with you all here, who knows? I mean, you'd probably be one of the more collaborative groups that we've seen, so never say never, but usually it is challenging. You have to be quite in lockstep, and also just the revenues is challenging as well, too. It's one Stripe account. So.
And sorry, I asked Councilperson Finer if he had questions, and I think we hit on all of them except for potentially what is the situation with proprietary lock-in? How do we get off the system and retain use of the data if we were ever to not be clients anymore?
Yeah, it's a great question. You own your data throughout the partnership. It is your data. You know, if the borough were to ever terminate its partnership with OpenGov, we return it to you. It's, I think, within the master services agreement, it's something within, like, you know, 45 days of, you know, if you're, you know, from your intention to, you know, move off of OpenGov, that, you know, that's when we deliver it to you within. And you have to work, you know, there's some back and forth that you work with our team on, but yeah.
What does the exported materials look like?
It's a good question. I'm actually not entirely sure. I know whenever we are, Madigan, do you know? Usually when I don't know, Madigan knows.
Yeah, it's going to be a CSV format.
Okay.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Madigan and Jack, for joining us.
No, thank you for giving us
Happy
the
to have
time.
you.
Thank you.
And
Caroline, can I ask Jack just one more question before he leaves?
one more question, Jack.
So, I read online that you guys partnered with the city of Durango, Colorado, to increase transparency by allowing citizens to view the city's finances and spending in real time. I was just curious which module that was.
That's one of the budget plans.
The budget and planning? Okay.
Montgomery County is a great partner for us for that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. If you want to just go ahead and email me that would be fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have before us, oh, wait, sorry. I was going to go right to the finance report. So, consideration of consent agenda dated June 17th, 2025. It includes approval of the minutes dated June 3rd, 2025, and certificate of appropriateness 25-15, 9 East College Ave, Decks and Porch. Does any member of council wish to remove one of these items? Hearing no request, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Councilperson Scherer, seconded by Councilperson Carlson. Discussion from council? Discussion from the public? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. You have before you the finance report dated June 17th, 2025. Any issues, questions, comments? Otherwise, it will be accepted by consensus. All right, this is a working session, so we're here to learn and to brainstorm, and I'm actually going to pull Mr. Foraker up to the top of the public safety agenda. So Mr. Foraker offered to come this evening to present about increased safety measures around town, since we've been getting a lot of questions about changes to some of our events. Welcome.
Good evening, thank you. So we have a really problem. We have a lot of events that are well attended. Last year, we had approximately 30 events that spanned 112 days. The year before that was a little bit less, the year before that a little bit less. I expect this year to be the same as last year, give or take 2 or 3 events. A couple things have come, a couple things have left, small fluctuations. But always, when we're looking at event permit requests, and even things that won't require the event permit, safety is the first thing we're looking at. So if you've been around town for any length of time, you recall Music Hall Main started out on the apron almost, next to burritos. And that made me and Chief Kelly kind of nervous. And we worked with the promoter for a long time, and we instituted steps. We got him to move back off the apron a little bit, give ourselves some space, and then we eventually moved it back into Buttonwood Park. And it's much safer there, in my opinion, and the promoter agrees. Again, going back several years, the menorah lighting used to be right out front here. That grew. That's a great event. I love. That's one of my favorite events in this town, actually. There's just so much joy for that event. But that was out front here, but that outgrew the space. So now they're down in the park. And they're in the park for the menorah lighting, and they have the Hanukkah Village on the sidewalk. So it's spread out a little bit more, and it seems to be much safer. 2 weeks ago, tonight, we had the Pride evening, really well attended. And I even mentioned it to the mayor that night. It went great, but it made me nervous because there was just too many people for the space. So I had an opportunity to speak to the promoter last week, and I said, look, this is my concerns. It's a great event. Love to see it. Don't want to see it leave, but I think we've outgrown the space. And she agreed. So we expect next year that Pride event will be in Buttonwood Park. And they can have a longer event, more than 30 minutes. They can have, up until right before dark. They can do whatever they want almost. So we're looking at trying to keep everything safe. So this past weekend, there was the No Kings protests, and I didn't write down where it was, but there was, no, I didn't write it down. There was at least, well, there was 2 incidents nationwide of vehicles entering the rally areas. Several people were injured. Wisconsin, everybody knows about a few years ago in a Christmas parade, 6 people killed. New Orleans, New Year's Eve, 10 killed, 35 injured. And just last year, after an Eagles game in Philadelphia, several people were injured when a vehicle entered a rally area. And not all of these are intentional, some are accidental. So we're not saying that we're a target for bad things, but things happen. So what we want to do is try to lessen the impact of bad things. So for Memorial Day parade this year, we instituted vehicle blocking. I worked with the both veterans organizations. I explained our concerns. They understood. They agreed with us. The last thing we want is something bad to happen on such a joyous occasion, and we don't want to be on CNN. So we hired someone to block 3 intersections with large trucks, and we did the other major intersections, what we considered major intersections, with police vehicles. So it went well. Nobody got hurt. Nobody's ever been hurt at any of our parades, but we're lessening the chances of anything happening. So there's some learning curves there, things we can improve upon, and we'll be doing the same thing for Christmas parade. In the last month or so, some new resources have become available to me I just didn't know existed through contacts I have in the emergency management world. So we'll be able to do things that'll be a little bit better handled than it was with the private landscaping trucks. And I'm very confident it'll be a safe event. Harvest Day. We started talking about plans for Harvest Day 2 years ago when the idea was floated about replacing the College Avenue Bridge. Harvest Day has always been, Harvest Day brings in 15,000 people for one day. That's a lot in this town, 15,000. And to move that amount of people around and do the parking, it's very difficult to police. Previous police administration was uncomfortable. The current police administration agrees that it's difficult. It's very difficult, especially when we have limited resources. We all know what the size of our police force is. So when the idea of replacing the bridge came up, and unfortunately it spans the period that Harvest Day will occur, obviously Harvest Day had to be reconfigured. So we met with the Harvest Day committee probably in the winter, late fall or winter, I don't recall. And they presented 3-4 possible ways of reconfiguring locations. And we picked one. They didn't like the one we picked. I understand it. We have different perspectives. We're all trying to do the same thing, we just have different perspectives. And the area that we preferred Harvest Day to be encompasses Buttonwood Park, some of the parking lots down there, and East Afton Avenue. One road closed. West Afton, thank you. West Afton Avenue. Only one road closed and approximately 12 houses impacted, and that's it. I would point out that in the configuration for the last several years, 60 to 70 directly impacted houses, and overall probably 200 when you can't count in the feeder streets that are closed. So there's no parking available in front of people's houses and whatnot for 12 to 14 hours on that day. So by relocating it, I think we're spreading the parking issue out more around town, so it wouldn't be so densely concentrated. Parking was really tough last year to the point where I was concerned with the ability of getting a fire truck or an ambulance down some of the streets. And God forbid if it happened to a property inside the event space, say Longbow, Shortbill. That would have been catastrophic. So this is what we're looking at this year. We've met with the committee several times. We're always going to have differing opinions, but I do believe this is the safest way to go about things. One of the other things that have become available to us recently is the ability to get message boards, which we'll be getting 2 message boards for Harvest Day, 2 message boards for the Christmas parade. And that is to facilitate moving traffic around the borough during the event. You know, hey, you might want to reconsider coming down this road, not a good idea, you know. And we'll have them spread out. Plus we have our own arrow stick, which it's limited, but it's something we have and we'll put it to use. Sure, I covered all my notes. I think I did. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I do. It's my understanding that the bridge repairs are delayed. Okay, so is that going to, changing where you do Harvest Day, was that really in light of the bridge not being available, or did you want to move it anyways, regardless of whether the bridge construction was going to be happening?
I would be less than honest if I said I wasn't taking advantage of the fact that the bridge was being closed. But we've been working on this, the configuration I just explained, for 2 years, and it's June now. I don't want to throw away a year's worth of work. I do think borough-wise, we're better off relocating Harvest Day because of the impacts to 200 homes versus 12 to 15 homes.
What about all the part of Harvest Day that was done at the fields, down in the fields, all the food trucks and all that stuff there, that you wouldn't have any, where would you move all that to?
Well, as I
Well,
understand it,
there's no room.
from speaking with the committee, and we haven't spoken directly in probably 6 or 8 weeks, West Afton Avenue would be where all the food trucks go. Okay?
Like
So
on the street? Okay.
Harvest Day ends at 5 o'clock. At 5:20, West Afton Avenue's open. road's open. Trucks drive away, road's open. Everything else would be, and we've already gotten permission for St. Andrew's property, both sides of the road. Penn Valley would be closed up to the bends to Cadwalder. So then you'd have all of Buttonwood Park. We've got the okay to use the parking lot at 19. South Main, we're working on getting the parking lot at the Yardley Shopping Center. All the businesses there are in favor of this. We're bringing 15,000 customers to them. Why wouldn't they be in favor of it? So I think at that point, the area is pretty comparable. And you'd have Buttonwood Drive all the way down to Main Street. So I think the area is pretty comparable.
But what you're going to lose is you're going to lose all the parking that's done. The parking's going to be a bigger problem, assuming you're not going to let them park on the field next to the funeral.
Last word again?
Where are you going to you're going to lose all the parking at the Calico Corners, all behind there, and behind Church.
No, Calico Corners isn't impacted. It's open. Afton, I should explain this. Afton Avenue would be closed to Brees.
Oh, only up to Brees. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
I should have explained that. My apologies.
Okay.
It would be closed at Brees Drive down to the traffic light.
Okay.
And honestly, the last couple of years, Harbor State, you couldn't park at the shopping center anyway because the previous owner didn't allow it unless you were using his businesses. So there was no real.
Which shopping center are you referring to?
25 South Main Street.
Oh, yeah, and I'm thinking more about behind Calico Corner.
Yeah, no, I understand, yeah.
A lot of spaces down in there.
Oh, there is,
And
there is.
At Harvest Day, that's full, to the brim with people. Plus all over
That's
there.
the one parking lot I probably did not go into in September.
Yeah.
But it would have taken me 3 hours to get there.
I think at this new location, a lot more businesses in the borough would benefit.
Well, we would be moving it back into the business district, that's true.
I think that's a plus.
Oh, that's true.
But do our restaurants benefit when we park a line of food trucks on Afton Avenue?
Well, the one thing, that's a good comment, and I did have the conversation with the committee, and they assured me that there would be no food trucks that duplicated
Sure.
our restaurants. So there won't be a Mexican, there won't be a pizza, there won't be a lobster.
Okay. I guess I have concerns about the space being considered comparable. I know Afton is 20 feet wide? Is that correct?
I'll take your word for it, I haven't measured it.
And College is, I believe it's 30 feet. Is that correct, David? So I'm just, with the current location of Harvest Day, we have Short Bell, we have College, which is typically wall to wall. The 4 side streets and the flats, you don't really have, people park there, but there's not really a whole lot going on there. And then you have all the canal behind here, and then typically there's people walking up and down Main Street. I just think if you park a food truck on Afton, that's basically, that food truck is filling all of Afton, because like you said, we lose the field. I just don't think it's enough space, and I was okay with it as a one-time thing, but I think, because my understanding is this is the first time this has been presented before council. I know you've been working on it for 2 years. My concern is that it being this is the new thing, I think needs a little more thought, but if we can.
I would like to point out that, I'm going to go back, I'm going to say it's 10 years.
It used to be on Main
Harvest
Street.
Day was there.
Right.
It was there.
When I bought my house, it was on.
This is where Harvest Day used to be,
But did it have 15,000 people attending back then?
probably 12.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we don't know until we try, and I think the plans have already been set for this year, so I would like to see how it goes. I attend Harvest Day every year, and every year I get like a tightness in my chest walking through the crowds. It's like, it makes me nervous that we've outgrown the space. I don't know if this space will be any better, but I do know down there it feels like it's a accident waiting to happen. And I just want to thank Mr. Foraker for, every time you present, I am reminded that so much more goes into this process than the, event permit that we vote on, and then we don't think about it anymore. And to many people watching who want things to always be the same, it's annoying, like we're being overly cautious, and why are we jumping through all these hoops for safety? But, based on the incidents that you told us about from other towns that we all read about and see on the news, it just takes one mishap to get on the news for the wrong reason. So I think we really do need to be grappling with these safety questions.
I would like to point out also that we're not the only community in Bucks County that are taking measures. I asked the manager to query her co-workers in the consortium that she belongs to, and we got several replies. There are communities that are doing things such as what we have undertaken this year. So we're not the only ones. I suspect at some point there will be more, for various reasons. But we have a very limited resource in our police department. And last year, there was a report, I don't know if David will remember or not, there was a report of a missing child. And it was later in the day. And how do you, I'm sorry?
I swear I brought the kid back. I'm just kidding.
Okay. It was a worry. It was a worry, because there's only, I just happened to be with the chief when we got the word. Trying to coordinate this in such a large area. I do believe that, and maybe this area is not as large, but I do believe it will be easier for our officers to patrol and watch over. It's more of a defined area, not, going this way in several different directions. But I do think it's fairly close. And Sergeant Golden agrees with me. And this, these discussions started prior to Sergeant Golden taking lead of the department. So,
Yeah, and I think we have to ask ourselves, what's our role here as council? And I think if the event planner is being heard and the safety professionals are planning with them, I think where we come in is mediation of any conflict points, like the event planner is unhappy or the safety professionals are unhappy, and then it'll inadvertently wind up in our council chambers, right? Like, we need your help, we don't understand this, or we don't agree with it. But I don't know, is the Harvest Day Committee unhappy with this plan, or is there?
I know what we're working on is not their preferred. I'm sure, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. They're working with Sergeant Golden and I. They are cooperative, but I'm sure it's not their preferred location.
But they're looking at people, we're looking at safety.
Well, that's not fair. We are looking at
I
safety.
know, that. I'm just saying, and a wide street, even though it's nice for a lot of people, people will fill up whatever size street you have, and the smaller, less wide streets are probably easier to observe for, like, any kind of incident that would happen with, like, somebody driving a truck down. I think the less space, the better. And I just feel like we can fit, still a pretty good amount of space, and I don't know. I look at safety. I'm not saying that you never looked at it. I'm just saying, that's always been my goal, is to try to keep it safe.
May I have an opportunity to? Of course. Thank you. So first of all, one of our highest concerns is safety. Secondly, I'd like to commend Mr. Foraker for his concerns and his ongoing improvements that he's presented to council on many different subjects, whether it's an event or anything else. I'm not speaking for the whole Harvest Day Committee, though I'm on the committee. In fact, I'm actually speaking more as a council person. My By the way, I wanted to ask, when you use the number 15,000, you don't mean at one time, because doesn't seem likely. Is that
No, it's a cumulative for the day.
cumulative of the day? Okay, so we're not doing 15,000 people at one time. Just wanted to clarify that. Where I want to carefully word this, because, again, I've already complimented you and said that, I agree with what you are, what I believe is the best for this community. So I'm not arguing that. I never have, actually. In fact, I've offered you suggestions for things such as, on Canal Ween and stuff, and we talked about lighting and all kinds of things. So we've had these nice conversations that resulted in very positive changes, some small, some bigger. But when it comes to the larger changes, I don't think, in my mind, it's about your intent at all. What I'm concerned about is, and maybe I'm wrong and you can set me straight, but I think some of these things that have a large impact should be discussed with council. Even, like, I know that these events were approved, but when we talk about changes that may affect the layout or may affect, I'm trying to think of other examples, but how we use our resources in town and so forth, I would just request that we have additional dialogue. And you might set me straight and say, well, I have, but I just didn't feel that way. And that has nothing, that's not specific to Harvest Day, by the way. It's just in general, that there are things that are extremely important that you've made the decision as an emergency management professional, but I'm not sure that we, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure we were given the opportunity to reflect on it.
Well,
That's my comment.
okay, thank you.
I just want to.
Well, I'm waiting for a response.
Oh, okay. I will say that I've met with you as part of the committee, so that's one councilman who knows what's going on. I don't make decisions unilaterally. I do not do that. I know what my position and my role is. And I always meet with the Public Safety Committee, and when it's appropriate, I dial in others. So I can do my best to improve the communication flow. I'll absolutely do that. I have no problems with that.
And this is not
Please don't think that I make decisions unilaterally.
I understand that, and I appreciate your, what you're saying. There has been a couple things that have been done that probably should have had better communication on. Now, I'm not trying to give you a hard time here, because I think we all can improve things, but since you're sitting in front of us, I'm just talking about that. So with what, I accept what you're saying, and I appreciate that you would do that. And if I haven't asked you directly about something, then I will take that opportunity to do so in the future, so to make sure that we are, have that kind of, not just relationship, but that kind of, you said, communication flow. That's all.
Thank you.
I think with this Public Safety Committee, a large part of the decisions and the discussions also come from the police department and their concerns.
And that's fine, but we need the communication too, to know.
Isn't that what we're doing right now?
Well, yeah, but we're talking about, after the fact. And I'm not trying to, and again, I'm not trying to dig, or point fingers. That wasn't the point of my comments. My comments were simply that I just want to feel like the council is aware of, these issues that may affect us in a larger way that we can contribute to. And it's not specific to Harvest Day. It's just a general comment. And I appreciate what Wes is doing. I really do. So don't think any different than that, because I do
I
appreciate it.
look at this as his public safety and what Wes does for us. And his presenting this based on what we discussed as a public safety committee is really not much different than every other committee that speaks about what they discuss and what they feel. I think it's just the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I think communication is always a good thing. It should always be something we strive for. We should always feel free to email Wes if we have questions and Paul if we have questions. I think that the location that we're talking about moved away from the bridge is what we voted on as a council, though. Right?
Yeah.
So it is as presented to council, and at that time, we could say, hey.
But that was, but I said it wasn't specific to Harvest Day, just to be clear.
Right, right. And I think what has compounded the issues with Harvest Day this year is a lot of rumors about the bridge, and is it happening, is it not happening, at least from people who have talked to me. Like, oh, I hear it's not happening, so are we moving it back? And that's where we start to swirl with.
But again, I'm saying it's not specific to Harvest Day.
Okay, but I can respond with a specific instance of why I think this particular one may have become an issue.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for Mr. Foraker? Yes.
The only thing that I think would be helpful would be if Harvest Day Committee shares with us, okay, here's our new layout, where we're going to put the booths, you know, and so we can get a feel for how it's going to be different. More than just the verbal, the trucks are here, you know.
I understand it.
Because, you know, they're very detailed, they're selling the individual. I'm sure have you guys worked all that out already?
We have worked, not only have we worked it out, but we negotiated as well as Wes and others to attain permission for different, use of different properties. The reason why we weren't able to present anything up to this point is because it wasn't solidified. But I think we're actually we're at the point where we can, and I will recommend to Mr. Wayne to come in and do a presentation. You know, I don't see anything, there's no secrets. And I don't mean that you were
No, I don't mean
saying
the
that.
secret, it's just good to know, so we know.
Yeah, and again, it's just about that Harvest Day is a project that takes a year to,
I know.
you know, organize and plan, and so some things are not set, and especially this year, with the changes, we've had to go, you know, the extra mile to make sure that we can make it work within the parameters that we were given.
Right.
That's all.
Now, I would point out that part of the permitting process does include a site plan, that's standard, so one would become available to you as soon as I get it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can share it.
I guess I just have concerns about the space. Like, I'm looking on the aerial map, and it looks like the space is going to be about a third of the size of the space that we had before. And I just don't know how it makes it safer when you take the same amount of people and compress them into a space a third of the size. I'd actually be open to considering even maybe we shut down parts of Main Street as well and divert traffic around on Delaware Avenue. I spoke to one of my neighbors who's lived here since the 60s, your old next door neighbor, Mrs. Petty, and she said that it used to be up and down Main Street. And so I'm certainly not a fixed mindset of, oh, it needs to be down here because this is where it's always been. I guess for me, I thought that what we voted on was based on, okay, there's construction on the bridge, so it has to be moved, but then it's going to move back. But what I'm learning tonight is it sounds like there's been 2 years of planning to actually move it. And, you know, on the borough's website, it says under the committee that I'm the chair of, community outreach, that part of our function is to prepare recommendations for council consideration regarding special community events such as Canaloween, Harvest Day, Canal Festival, which doesn't exist anymore, and You Old Fashioned Christmas. And nothing has been brought to me. I invited myself to a Harvest Day committee meeting in April and attended.
That's not fair. I invited you.
No, so and I'm not saying that's a criticism against you. I'm just saying that then when people reach out to me with a chatter, it's okay, well, how am I supposed to, you know?
I want to see the plan, yeah, so.
Yeah, I just think.
See how they're going to fit everything in and see what it looks like.
I would just request that if we are if we are moving in this direction, and maybe it's just, okay, we do it once and see how it goes, and maybe it's lovely and it's wonderful, and maybe it's, oh no, that didn't work out, we need to do something different. If we could just bring that before council to vote on, since it is the largest event that we do, because we voted to change it based on the bridge construction. The bridge construction is not happening. I've confirmed that with Bucks County General Services, that there's no way they're going to break ground on the bridge between now and September.
Okay. I have no issues with including Main Street, not a lot of issues. Nothing that can't be overcome.
And I wasn't saying we
I
need
would
to do
have
that
to,
this
I would
year.
have to work with Sergeant Golden to flesh it out with him, see what his concerns are. There could be a couple of hiccups, I don't know. It's been done, we've done Harvest Day on Main Street.
Okay.
More recently than Mrs. Petty mentioned.
Okay. Yeah, she didn't give a
I do
year.
recall one about 12 years ago on Main Street, didn't we? Yeah,
Bill days. I think.
yeah.
Remember?
Was it both directions or just one direction? I couldn't remember.
Both right, you can't just close half the
can't
road
just
down.
close
No,
one,
You'd
yeah.
have to close the whole thing
Wouldn't
down.
be safe at all.
And realistically, you'd have to close it from College to the traffic light. You can't close it to Wawa or something like that.
So that's what I was thinking. If we have those big giant message board signs, you could do one there to, if I'm driving south
Oh, no,
down.
the message boards won't even meet in the borough. They'll be on the outside of the borough.
Oh, so-
Don't come down here.
So we don't have the ability to get those.
That's the message we want to send. Don't come.
So my point is though, is that we can, I see what you're saying about the message board being outside the borough to, hey, don't come down here. Got it. But if we divert, if we go from the traffic light to down here by the firehouse, we can easily divert traffic around on College to Delaware, back up
At
after.
East College. Oh, wait a minute, this year we could, yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking we might want to look into that. Just because I do have, I'm open to giving it a try.
If the Harvest Day Committee wants us to pursue that, I can speak with the sergeant. That's not a problem.
Okay. I just know in the meeting I was in April.
I want to say that we actually touched on that in our initial meeting, but I could be mistaken.
Don't remember
Okay.
it. But that wasn't really, no, I don't remember it. But I would like to make one very comment to quell some of the concern on space, because it's not completely accurate what you're saying.
Okay.
And Wes probably knows this better, and I know it much better than him. And that is with the negotiations that we've made with the church, that's opened up a lot of area for us. So we're going to be using all their frontage. We're going to use all the property, well, not the whole property, not the amphitheater, but the grass to the, towards Penn Valley.
Penn Valley.
Penn Valley, which is significant, and other locations where we can take advantage of. So just to be, transparent, that it's probably not going to be as claustrophobic as you may think.
You got the parking lot across the street from there also, didn't you?
We're getting their whole
Yeah,
property,
so-
So I
yeah,
just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
you knew that. So again, my concern has nothing to do with that. And I think that if we could consider Main Street, and if the committee was interested in pursuing that, then yeah, that'd be great. But I wasn't even thinking that was an option, but just to let you know that it won't be as claustrophobic as you think.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. And also with that field by St. Andrews, that almost replaces some of the Fitzgerald space. I just know in the meeting in April, Mr. Wayne and other members of the committee were expressing concern with the Afton Street width versus College Avenue. And if you park food trucks on there, how much space is there really before you're in people's?
Yeah, I've talked with Mr. Wayne about that, and
Okay.
We agree to disagree, but that's okay.
Okay.
It's nothing.
That's totally valid.
Yeah. So, any more thoughts on events? Since I'm just talking what we're doing safety-wise, I just want to mention one other thing. Recently, I had the opportunity to speak with our IT provider, and I thought it prudent that at this point we'd work together to develop a disaster plan for IT and a recovery plan. So we were doing that for the administrative side for our computer safety.
Awesome.
And I will be relaying some of the information to Patrolman Bailey, who handles IT for the police department. I don't want to be involved with that, that's sensitive stuff. Just so we have a plan going forward to protect our cyber.
That's fantastic.
So,
Who's on the committee?
right now, it's myself, the manager, and our HPT rep, yeah.
Is there room for anyone else?
Sure.
Could his name be David?
The one name I was going to say no to,
Oh,
but it could be Mr. Applebaum.
oh, him, yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
Is there any special way to handle this committee so that we stay?
Disaster response is housed totally within our office staff, which is not under the purview of, in terms of our IT, like under the purview of council. So if they'd like to have you, that's great.
I don't know if they'd like to have me, but I'm a volunteer.
But I'm not going to put it up for consensus of council, so.
Oh, okay, I'm just, look, I'm just checking. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Foraker.
Thank you, Wes, for what you do, keeping the borough safe.
Don't trip.
All right. Jumping back into it, we have a resignation from our Police Transition Committee, which is currently inactive, from Linda Staropoli. She writes, to the Yardley Borough Council members of the Police Transition Committee, I appreciate the opportunity to have been considered for a role in such an important process for our community. I accepted the invitation to serve on the Police Transition Committee in good faith, with the intention of contributing constructively and objectively to the leadership transition of our police department. Unfortunately, it has become clear that the process has taken on a level of politicization that makes it difficult for me to participate in a way that aligns with my values and intent. More concerning, I have found my character and objectivity questioned by individuals who do not know me personally and who have not engaged me directly before forming conclusions. My sincere hope is that some of the more aggressive and counterproductive behaviors witnessed, even in the very short inception of this committee's work, can be set aside. This transition deserves a tone of mutual respect and seriousness that reflects the importance of the role being filled and the community it serves. Out of respect for the process, the community, and my own integrity, I've decided to step away from the committee at this time. I sincerely hope that your work leads to a decision that benefits the long-term well-being and safety of Yardley Borough. Please consider this my formal resignation from the Police Transition Committee, effective immediately. With respect, Linda Staropoli. Do I hear a motion to accept her resignation from the committee?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Councilperson Carlson and seconded by Councilperson Stoll. Discussion from council? Yes.
I just want to thank Mrs. Staropoli for her time, and it's a shame to see her go.
Agreed, thank you. Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. So with this, just, I won't linger too long here, considering the late hour, and we still have some stuff to go through, but I have some questions that have come up regarding the committee. One of them is around membership. So do we want to fill Linda's position with another member of the public? And who are we allowing to apply? Can business owners apply? Can APOs apply? Can executive board members from the American Legion apply? Can they just be affiliated with the borough, or do they necessarily have to live here? And this is a question that I think Jared and Michelle need imminently because they're actively accepting applications. So any thoughts here? We didn't define this in our formation of the committee.
When you talked about how other communities came up with a group, none of them had people from the community. It was all like council people.
I'm not going to say that all of them do, and I plan to share the spreadsheet that I have with everyone since someone asked me. But yeah, the vast majority of them Like, there could be like a member of the community who was affiliated with the police force in some way or served as part of the police force, but it was mostly staff members and council members. Right. I don't personally, we have business owners that serve on other committees. I don't personally have an issue with people applying. Ultimately, the council will be deciding who we appoint, and we can vet them and decide if their affiliation with the borough is legitimate and appropriate. But I also understand if people just want it to be residents. I think, you know, business owners and auxiliary police officers will bring different insights that someone who owns a home here don't necessarily have. But it is the taxpayers who are paying for our police force, so I can see it both ways. So I'm happy with whatever way the committee's feeling, but I do feel like we need to define it.
I would, my thought is that you want as big a tent as you can. And then get the applicants in and you guys do your due diligence on it. And then we choose people that make sense that would be the best fit for it, you know? Because the committee is already made up of, you know, defined borough residents and people from here, et cetera. You've got the core. It's not like it would be all outsiders, and you're only talking a couple of slots. So my personal opinion is to let business own, if those two categories of people apply, and then we decide when we look at the pool. I don't know.
So
That's my
then,
thought,
do I hear a motion to entertain applicants from non-borough residents, but applicants with some affiliation to the borough?
What if they're non-residents and have experience in either policing and/or being on a committee like this?
I think it would be better if they either live here or have something to do with here rather than broadening it.
Just
even
asking,
more.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, and that's certainly opinion. I agree with Michelle. I think that those are people who would bring in as in an advisory capacity to interview, but not necessarily as members of the committee.
Oh, that makes sense.
So does someone want to make a motion? We don't have to linger too long here.
What would the motion be for, too? Whether we want to have residents or non-residents?
However you would like
Okay.
council to vote.
You want us to say how many extra people besides?
So yeah, there
We
were
already
two
have
questions. Do we want to backfill Linda's spot? So that's the first one. And the second one would be, do we want to accept applicants from non-borough residents, but with some affiliation to borough?
I mean, I think accepting an application and putting someone on the committee are two different things. So I'll accept an application from anybody, I would think, but I would be skeptical to put non-residents or Lower Makefield residents on the committee unless there is a strong business connection.
Okay, so the motion, you're right, thank you. That should be that we would accept and obviously potentially vote on applicants from who are non-residents. Is there a motion to that effect?
Just to clarify, that doesn't necessarily mean there is a seat available for a non-resident. We'll have to get that through the process. But we can accept the application, sure.
No, that's what we're trying to accomplish this evening.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask.
Why would we waste our time accepting applicants if we weren't going to have seats for them?
No. Is it just one available seat because Mrs.
No,
DeRocco?
we are currently filling, how many? 3?
It would be 4 if we
Four?
if we decided to fill this seat as well with a member of the public. It would be 4.
Thank you for clarifying.
I mean, I can just say that because one of the potential items on the table is the potential of sharing services with Lower Makefield, because that's one of the things that will be explored. To me, I think if we have a person who is a resident of Lower Makefield but has a connection to Yardley Borough, I think that potentially creates a conflict of
But
interest.
not all businesses may either live in Yardley or may not even live in Lower Makefield. They may live in another municipality.
Sure, I'm just sharing my personal opinion on the matter.
I just need someone to make a motion, and the motion should be whether or not we want to accept non-borough residents on the committee. Not just their applications, but
Right.
accept them on our committee.
I make a motion to accept people who are in Yardley Borough on our committee.
Residents.
Yes.
Residents only.
I agree with Michelle, and we make up the committees. So
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, motion is made by Councilperson Shara, seconded by Councilperson Stump. Discussion.
Somebody needs to clarify for me, because
The motion was that all, the committee must be comprised of only Yardley Borough residents. I will say that we voted to ask somebody from the police force to serve on the committee, from the Yardley Borough Police Force, so obviously they do not live in Yardley Borough. I don't believe any of our current officers live in Yardley Borough, so we're talking.
That I'm okay with. That's, to me, I think that's different. But I think members of the public, if it's,
How's that different if you're, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we're just
you're-
talking about the public.
I mean, if you're employed by the borough, then
Yeah, I'm just
yeah,
making
yeah.
that clarification for the
Yeah.
record.
No, I got you. I got you.
That not all members will be.
I mean, so I would say this. I think part of the committee will be collecting input from business owners that could live wherever. But I think membership of the committee needs to be the people that have the most skin in the game because they live here. And we do have business owners. We have a handful of business owners that do live and work in Yardley Borough. So we can get representation.
Okay.
I agree. Residents and if members of the police force, yeah, I think.
Sounds good. Any comments from the public? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No,
Motion carries 4-1. All right, just around the committee itself, there was some comments last time about the members of council not being qualified to do this work, and there's this MAP grant out there that would do the work for us. And I don't think we want to get into it tonight, but I do want us as a council to consider, take a step back. There's been a lot of talk about this committee for the past 3 meetings. Is this committee being set up to fail? Do we feel like an outside entity would do a better job than we would and be more unbiased? I don't know the answer to those questions. I do know that all of the MAP grant awardees that I read, it was solely focused on mergers and not necessarily all of the other things that we want to look at with regard to our police force and our budget and creative community policing and different things that we could do during this time. So does anyone have any thoughts, or has anybody else been thinking about this? Maybe it's just me.
I'd rather not have outsiders making decisions for us.
Okay, yes, agreed. For the record, they would just be collecting the data and doing a report, and it would ultimately be our decision, but,
So I don't think we need.
okay. Any other comments on that?
just that I believe that the integrity of the committee and including new members will only be stronger and more, more interested in what is best for the residents. And I do support that. I think that that's the way to go. And I appreciate that, I don't know how we got there, but that we're adding more people to it and give a little bit more, opinions to the conversation. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel very strongly as someone who gives a lot of time to the borough, as we all do, that we are interviewing people to spend hours every week, tens of hours every month, and that we're not asking them to do that in vain, and we are still behind this process.
I'm with you.
That's my comment. All right.
On that note, Caroline, with the committee on pause until we add these members, do we need to look at, because right now, the committee is formed has a dissolution date of 12/31/25.
No, the dissolution date was removed.
We removed that? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right, just a quick contract update on Sergeant Golden and the side letter agreement with the civil service officers. Our police labor attorney has, I think, finished a draft. Just a reminder that starting next month, we move to one meeting a month, but it is very possible if, it's circulated among council to each of us individually. We provide our comments, Sergeant Golden provides his comments. We get to somewhat formal agreement that we might have an executive session called before the meeting on the 15th, just because it doesn't make good sense to wait another month if it's ready. So keep an eye out for an invitation, which it would also be advertised, obviously, for that. But that's just a high-level update. We're getting close there. Any questions? All right. Public Works.
I'm
Caroline.
tired, you take it, Jerry.
Yeah, so Caroline, that meeting on the 15th, the council meeting is actually on the 22nd of July, right?
What was that, Jared? I didn't hear you.
When is is that meeting that you just mentioned that you were giving us a heads up on, is that before the council meeting or on a different day?
It would be a different day.
Okay.
Because we would like to have our final vote on the.
Got it. Okay.
So reviewing the contract would need to happen before.
I'm just asking logistically, should I put the 15th on my calendar, pencil that in?
Sorry.
Or is that TBD?
Is this the wrong date? Sorry, I was looking.
15th is going to be the council meeting.
Council meeting's the 15th.
Yeah, council meeting is the 15th. We don't have anything.
Okay, got it. That's what I was
So it's
confused
gonna
about.
happen, the executive session would be between now, not this week, next
Sure.
week or the week, probably not the 4th of the week. So either next week or the week of the 7th.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Okay, so on the public works section, one of the things that Ori asked me to talk about for him was the ARLE grant. I don't see that on the agenda, though.
It's a working session, so as long
So
as
we
we're
can-
not voting, you can provide updates on things.
Okay.
But
I
we can't.
believe we're looking for.
Can we go ahead and do A and B then, and then do that, just so we can get all the business out of the way?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't prepared to lead that whole part. I was just going to lead the ARLE grant. So item A is vote to adopt ordinance number 498, which is the borrowing ordinance.
Manager Johnson, you want to?
You're going to have to help me on this one, Paula, because I did not prepare for this at all.
So as we have said numerous times in the past, we have our Phase 3 of the North Main Street sidewalk happening. We are out to bid. I believe we accept bids next week or the week after. I think it's next week. This project is expected to cost about $1.6 million. The contractor who is selected and does the work is going to want to get paid a little quicker than we could provide for him. Because usually it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get reimbursed after we pay a contractor. So we started to research to do a loan. So we got in touch with Newtown, who we had loans with before, and they agreed to do a $1.7 million loan for us so that we can pay our contractor and then get reimbursed. And we fully anticipate, once we get reimbursed, to pay the loan back, so we're not going to have a lot of over and above kind of expenditures for this. So this ordinance was written up. It's a borrowing ordinance. As Jared said, it's 498. It was advertised. It was advertised in the Courier Times, the Law Library, and it was posted here at Borough Hall. So I'm asking council to please adopt this so that we can pay our contractor when we hire him.
Do I hear a motion to adopt?
So moved.
All right, second.
We'll give the motion to Councilperson Stump, second to Councilperson Applebaum. Discussion?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
From the public? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously.
And the second item I have tonight is our don't cringe, but are advertising for bids for our snow plowing. So this gets done every 3 years. This is, like I said, a 3-year contract, so I would like to start going out to bid. Last time, we had a little bit of an issue finding people to bid on this because of the insurance aspect. So we wanted to start a little bit earlier this year, so I would like to go out to bid in July, receive bids sometime in July.
I was just laughing at July, not at anything else you were saying.
This contract would begin November 1st, 2025, and like I said, it would be a 3-year contract.
Do I hear a motion to advertise for snow bids on June?
Yes.
Second.
Motion is made by Councilperson Scher. I think Councilperson Stump got the second. Any discussion?
Paul, have there been any changes in the RFP or the solicitation? Have there been any changes to the terms?
There was very minimal. The one thing that we did decide to change, and this was after talking with Chief Kelly, is when the contractor goes out, they have to come back and report back to us that they're done with the borough, so that the police or myself could make sure everything is done before they leave, so that we don't have to call them back. Because if we have to call them back, it's like a 3-hour call out. So we want them to come back and say, we are done, so we can document when they're done as well, and better manage that kind of stuff.
David, is the live stream, David in the back, is the live stream still going? I'm getting text that it cut abruptly. I don't want
That's about it.
anybody to say we're talking about secrets on the live stream. Okay, I'll do it here.
Let me wave my hand.
But if there's any other changes you would like to see, just let me know. That's why I put the whole document in there, so people could research, read through it, and let me know if there's anything that's glaring at you that you would like to change.
Thank you.
Do we know if there's any potential interest in the person who's doing it now on bidding again? Okay, great, excellent.
Do a great job.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
All right, all those any comments from the public on snow plowing? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, Arlie.
Alrighty. So I will give just some clarification. If there's anything that I miss, please, if I do make a mistake and somebody knows that what I'm saying is incorrect, please jump in and help me. I just got notification that I was going to be doing this at 5 p.m. last night and was working till about midnight. So I am just kind of shooting from the hip here. So what Councilman Feiner asked me to share was, at the last council meeting, we spoke about the ARLI grant, and the feedback we got from PennDOT was that we put too much in the grant and we needed to make some changes. And so what we're looking for tonight, because this isn't on the agenda, we're not taking a vote, but can we do a consensus, Caroline? Or just no objections, or because what we were wanting was to report back to Pat with direction from council on what we want to see included.
I think if it doesn't impact the cost of the grant application that we already approved, that we're fine.
Yeah, it's basically just making the
Well, it's taking Brees and that beacon out, is that correct?
Yeah, so one of the things that we will remove is the beacons on Afton at Brees. That would be removed from the ARLI grant application, and it would be moved into the West Afton grant application that we approved at the last council meeting. And that will actually, how that will work into our favor is because there's only so much allowed of a percentage for engineering. If the grant total is higher, that leaves more for engineering. Because if you remember, Don, we were concerned about a potential engineering
Yeah, but
cost.
it means you won't get beacons for another few years,
Correct.
you know? Because this is a project of its own, and it would be done soon after getting the money, I think, right? Because this isn't one where we had to do a separate engineering, no.
Right. So let me go through the others, and then
I understand,
that
I understand.
may
And it's
impact.
okay. It's-
So what's interesting
That's what
is,
I wanna take out.
well, so what's interesting about this is part of what helps us have a stronger, more compelling case for the grant is crash data. And so my suggestion at the last meeting was that we take out Afton and Penn Valley instead of Afton and Breeze, which that is just some safety equipment. It's not beacons. It's a very simple, it's a potential realigning the crosswalk a bit to make it straight if possible. However, what Pat said to me during the meeting was that's where we have crash data.
Yes, so there's 3 locations that have crash data?
Yeah, so there's,
That PennDOT reported on for us?
Yep.
As a favor?
so that's the one at Afton and Penn Valley. The other one would be at Main and College by the firehouse, and that would be for beacons, because we already have crosswalks at that intersection. And then in the future, if the firehouse potentially wants to look into tying with the beacons with the when fire trucks are departing, that's something that potentially could be done. But what Councilman Feiner and I discussed yesterday was that we thought we would be getting too much into the weeds there, because this grant does have a deadline. That's really something we should coordinate with the fire company, and we don't want to promise that, oh yeah, we can do this and tie it in, and then they're like, what the heck, we weren't even involved in that discussion. The third one is the Yardley Commons crosswalk, and that would just be a crosswalk, and it would go to the entrance to the Yardley station, the townhome development, so that it's at a corner. It's not a mid-block crosswalk, and that would be no beacons. So we do a crosswalk, we see how it goes. There's also crash data there. There's property damage there. I'm open to the idea of, personally, if it's just me, I would want beacons there, but I think the advice of the engineer was that what was initially in there that we presented at the last meeting also included Reading and Maine by the Yardley Service Center, and it had beacons there. And so by doing no beacons on the south end of town right now, that kind of, okay, let's put a crosswalk there that isn't there already, and then we see what happens. Because we can't have beacons at Yardley Commons and then beacons again at Reading. It defeats.
I would do that. I just thought that beacons at the entrances to the town would be the most useful. You slow you down.
So you would say the beacons.
If it was me,
Sure.
I would say I'd rather have them at Yardley Commons.
Okay.
Than at Reading.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I do agree with not needing them at both.
Correct.
I just flashed at me
Yeah, because it's like
4 seconds ago.
like, oh,
Yeah.
I forgot, I just realized I'm in the borough, because it's usually when you get to like the train station, you're
yeah.
like, oh, I'm in the borough, but it's actually way sooner than that.
Right.
But-
Yeah, so I'm totally open.
But the reason, the thing that confused me on that, did we submit for this grant and then they said you put too much, you made it too complicated and they wanted you to redo it, or did we not even submit?
So we
That's where I'm a little shaky.
we submitted for this grant. So what you
Submitted, yes, and they asked us to
Downscope it?
This is coming from
downscope
PennDOT.
it, yeah.
So what's unique about this grant versus other grants is they actually give us feedback rather than saying yes or no. So if they're telling us to downscope it,
That's,
we need to downscope.
Okay, all right, I understand.
How many beacons can we get? Just one?
That's where there's not,
They didn't tell us how to de-scope it.
they just said you're asking for too much.
So what you guys are proposing, where will there'll be beacons at Reading?
We are proposing beacons we're proposing 3 things in this grant going forward. Is beacons at Main and College.
In college, okay, got it.
We're proposing realignment of the crosswalk and safety items, which is literally just the pedestrian crossing sign in the middle of the intersection that we can buy ourselves at Penn Valley and Afton, because we have crash data there. So if we remove that, we're removing our crash data. So that's almost an inconsequential, but we need it for the crash data. The third thing we're looking at is the Afton Avenue crosswalk. The way that Ori presented it to me was just do a crosswalk. Personally, I'm actually in favor of doing beacons there if that's what council wants to do.
At Breeze?
This is at Yardley Commons.
You said after.
Breeze and Afton. I promise I know our street names. Breeze and Afton would still be beacons, but it moves to a different
grant application.
grant application. Because that also helps scope it
So
down.
this grant application only has one set of beacons in it.
Correct. Well, at Maine and College, we could put 2 in it if we want to do it at Yardley Commons.
But then it wouldn't be done.
Yardley Commons.
Enough.
Your discussion with Mr. Finer yesterday, did he indicate whether adding another set of beacons would, kind of push us further out from, getting this grant?
We didn't get into that discussion. I guess his guidance, and it was based on conversations with Pat. I mean, it wasn't just him.
Because Pat was the one that, if I recall, made the
So Pat,
recommendations on PennDOT's
you were copied on that email, right, from Pat, where he made the recommendations last week. So that was where he went down everything we'd asked for and given recommendations. And so the call that I had with Ori yesterday, because Ori was going to present all this tonight. And then when he realized that he had a funeral, he asked me if I would present this. And so that was the call that I had with him last night, was just to be his messenger. So he said, Afton, just do a crosswalk. Again, I personally would like beacons there, but just because if we don't get them in this grant, that doesn't mean we don't get them. It just means it would need to be a separate thing later on.
From my perspective, I agree the amount you want to downside to it. I would just say Public Works decides where they want to put the beacon. You guys decide. You guys get together and decide with inputs from
40 miles an hour.
RV.
Yeah. I agree. I'm fine with what's being recommended by Public Works. I will say that this is a work session, and so we're loosey-goosey, but it's really, 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 really important that we submit things for the packet on Friday, because I'm just like trying to like conceptualize what you're saying. And
Sure.
We don't have an email, we don't have a list, we don't have anything.
He might have had a PowerPoint.
Okay, I don't want
I
a
get it.
PowerPoint. I want things ahead of time so that I, on my own
Sure.
time, can read through them. And I think we've sent a couple emails about this, just like it helps us all on our
Yep.
own time be able to digest business items and come with
Sure.
questions and not
And
be.
physically go out, and look
Yeah,
at
yeah.
it yourself.
Yep,
So
yep.
PowerPoints on the night of, not what I mean. I mean,
Okay.
in the packet. All right, so you're good. Thumbs up for David and Jared on this, and Ori too. Good. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Which was made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.